Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today with a Fallout 76 news update, and Fallout 76 has yet another big problem on its hands, this time in the form of patch 11, which just recently released for this game. And we saw bigger heads at Bethesda like Jeff Gardner, project lead, or Emil Pagliarulo, creative director, mentioning how this was a gigantic patch and one that they're really excited to get into our hands. But it seems that, much like a lot of patches with 76, that there wasn't much testing here, and that'll be a theme that I'm going through with this video. So to quickly go over what happened in this patch, there was actually a Reddit thread created which highlighted pretty much every busted thing after this patch released. The Atomic Shop greenhouse was falsely advertised and pretty much unusable. It won't place properly, there's no snap points, the foundation itself won't snap, you can't place crops on the inside, making it a dome, not a greenhouse. Furthermore, legendary weapon drop rates have worsened, and that is even more awful because on top of that, legendary enemy spawning has also completely decreased, and sometimes they are not even in areas at all. So farming legendary weapons to get those scripts that you can then regenerate legendary gear and get the best possible gear for your character is currently not possible, or a bigger grind than ever for Fallout 76. Also, some NPCs are not registering damage from high damage / rate of fire weapons. Sometimes when you leave your power armor, your player's head will not render. There's also an issue that sprinting in power armor and then opening the map or Pip-Boy will keep your AP draining. Also, there is a carry weight issue with the excavator power armor. Furthermore, there is a host of UI issues, one of them including locking you into the menus if you open the social tab while renaming an object. So yeah, a lot. And that's just me quickly scanning over it because I've seen a lot of very extensive think pieces on this patch, and I think some people just want to get the show on the road and get to the discussion, which Bethesda has said we are looking into issues being reported after patch 11 yesterday and plan on releasing a hot fix later today. We are canceling today's live stream, and we will speak with you in the forums on Reddit and social, which presents a bit of an issue because another thing that's been highlighted on Reddit is that Bethesda is not really communicating as best as they could. Now, I think the inside the vault, the patch notes that Bethesda does are some of the most thorough we do see across the industry, but what happens in turn is they seem to get caught in their little hive and they ignore, for example, all the Reddit posts that are frequently updating with bug fixes and patches. And if I'm Bethesda, you take full advantage of that, man. I mean, that is a really dedicated community. Imagine if Anthem had even half of that, how quickly maybe some stuff could have been fixed. But with Fallout 76, people are always posting in that Reddit thread telling them exactly what they need to fix or what can improve. It's like an endless source of info that directly connects to your fans and helps the game out. I don't know why they don't rely on it more. So when they say we'll speak with you in the forums on Reddit and social, I'm a little hesitant to believe all that. Now, before I move on to the most notable aspect of this entire patch, I just want to suggest one thing to Bethesda if they stumble across my little video here, and it's that please open a PTS. Now, if you're not familiar with online games, mostly a competitive style game, like I think of Smite instantly because that's an online game I play a lot, or Overwatch back when I did play it a lot, a PTS is a public test server. So pretty much before a developer releases a patch with a substantial amount of changes, it goes on the PTS for players to test. Then the developer acquires feedback from the PTS, makes changes to that already existing patch, and releases it to everybody so that they can avoid pretty much what's happening with Bethesda Game Studios in Fallout 76 right here. Now, once again, if you are not familiar with a PTS, it is exclusive on PC because you can get past some of the certification processes that are needed for consoles. And what happens is you can test your own patch, get everything put together, and then bang, ship out the final product, so to say, to console users alongside, we'll say, Steam. What becomes frustrating is less about 76 struggling and more so Bethesda having a limitless amount of options to help themselves out and taking on none of them. It's almost like they're being stubborn. It's really, really strange. But anyway, the most notable aspect of this all is the new utility item called the Scrap Kit. Scrap kits are new one-time use items that you can use to scrap all the junk you're currently carrying and immediately deliver the resulting components to your stash. They can be used anytime, anywhere without needing to visit a workbench or your stash. You can unlock scrap kits in the Atomic Shop by using items you've purchased or those you've earned by completing in-game challenges, which they also augmented in this patch and actually removed some of the early game items, which I thought they were adding items on top of it because that's how it was worded in the patch notes, but no, they actually removed some of the initial items you get, so it's encouraging more and more for you to pay. Keep that in mind. Upon purchasing scrap kits, you'll be able to select which of your characters you'd like to have receive them. Any kits you own will appear under the miscellaneous tab in your Pip-Boy and can be activated there. Upon using a scrap kit, it will be consumed. If using a scrap kit would put your stash over its maximum storage space, you will receive a warning notification. If you choose to proceed, the scrap kit will move as many components as it can to your stash and the rest will remain in your inventory. If you attempt to use a scrap kit while your stash is currently at max capacity, you will also receive a warning and can cancel using the kit. We can see for 6 scrap kits, it's 250 atoms, and for 1 scrap kit, it is 50. Now this, man, I gotta say, what is the point? Ladies and gentlemen, think about this, and I'm not trying to overreact to the existence of this, but just think about, you're in the room at Bethesda Game Studios, and they're deciding, okay, we're gonna add this as a microtransaction. To get to your camp, fast travel is free. So long as you have a camp established, you can just fast travel and go back to it. And there, at any workbench you've created, any of them, you can scrap all your junk. It takes a series of minutes, okay? And they're offering this, I put it in quotes, gameplay convenience option, end quote, because we've seen them decorate these types of patches with that in the past. But even for the laziest, even for someone who has tons of cash and could just flick it at the scrap kits, even if someone wants to have that additional, we'll say 5 minutes tops to go back to their camp, scrap, and then re-enter the world, what does this accomplish? Its very existence is meaningless. And that's what bugs me more than anything. It's Bethesda trying to see where they can push the envelope. This is not the promised cosmetics-only microtransactions that Bethesda had constantly said would be in the game afterwards. That's why the very existence of the scrap kit and what it accomplishes, there's no pay to win here. It doesn't affect the balance of the game. It just kind of keeps the flow going. So the very concept of it doesn't bother me. It's more so Bethesda going back on their word. This affects gameplay. This affects flow. This is something that a convenient option should be implemented into the game, available for everybody. Something that I can create with valuable resources and used for myself as a dedicated player. Not something you pay for, because then Bethesda is once again dividing the player base. People who pay, people who play. And that becomes ultimately all the more frustrating. So I just had to air my displeasure with their approach to monetization, how they are lying. And it's also just this series of 1 step forward, 2 steps back, because we see what happens with the Fallout 76 Battle Royale mode when Bethesda actually really tests something out. I had actually been told that they were testing that since March, which really should have been the case, but it was surprising given the state that 76 usually never tests anything. And so when you see that and then they do this afterwards, what is the level of communication at Bethesda Game Studios where they're rolling out certain patches with 0 testing and then they're rolling out a bunch of bigger modes with a lot of testing? It's like they're emphasizing the importance and pretty much assuming everyone will deal with it. Just keep all of this in mind, folks, but I will wrap it up there. I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. Do fire away, ladies and gentlemen. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that as it fuels all the content I create here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.